burning season. So I've been dinking with these tires. The only reason I've been messing with them this much is, as I said, I want to put the two worn most tires on the front of the other truck so that I don't have to constantly fill it or keep it propped up, which means getting them to seal. It's O-rings. It's always O-rings. But I got another complication. None of the tires on that truck had bead locks. Here's the bead lock. I only had one extra bead lock. I will not run front tires without bead locks in them, which means I had to rob one, which means I had to try to get this one to seat without a bead lock. It is quite a bit more difficult. This has worked for me in the past. Sometimes I have to put a come along on the other side, but basically I can squish it some in the middle and force it to puff up. And you pour some soap and bounce it and hope she catches. Now I'm only running at best 135 psi air pressure here, so really quite a bit too low to fight these things. The problem, of course, is those O-rings. For whatever reason in this rim, the 3/8 O-ring didn't want to seat. I'll show you what it was doing here in a second. So I had 1/4 inch left over, but a 1/4 inch won't seal. So I actually asked the wife if she would go and pick up a 5/16, which is the size I said I should have ordered to begin with. They had just enough of it left. I'm in between their orders to make me one. But by gosh, one is all I need. So I'm going to get this back apart. This is probably the 4th time I've taken this apart now. Get that O-ring swapped out. 5/16 in there. Get her lubed. See if I can get it to pop and stay on the bead. Shadow tells the tale. So here's where the O-ring was seating, and up, and it sits on top, and comes back down. And up, sits on top, comes back down. That's those 3/8 O-rings. They are oversized. That's their deal. They still seal. And if you're fighting these tires and this is just getting to be too much, or your rims are pretty badly pitted, and I'm not telling you you're supposed to run with pitted rims or not run with pitted rims. That's your business. But if your rims are badly pitted, you can jump to 3/8. It's kind of like, you know, putting with a sledgehammer. You're going to get the job done, but it's a little heavy-handed. The problem I'm having is I only have 135 psi shop air here. So I just cannot shove enough air pressure into those tires to get it to roll the 1/4 inch O-ring out. This is a 1/4 inch in here that I put in there after I got the 3/8 in and couldn't get it to seal. That's not true. Okay, it just bubbled a little bit. Just judging from the bubbles, 4 psi a day, maybe, and that is definitely how I ran this wheel the last 2 years. I just had 4 psi a day to it. It's no big deal on this truck. The other trucks are in storage and they're a long ways away, and it's a pain in the butt to get air to them. So I just wanted tires that held. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm swapping out the 3/8 for the 5/16. I think I said in my last video that it was supposed to be 5/16. I don't know how. Somehow I've ended up with just a literal buttload of 3/8 O-rings. Every time I go and I need to order some more 5/16, and then I show up and the words that come out of my face hole is, can I get some 3/8? I don't know why. Maybe I'll sell them on eBay or something, because I've got to have a dozen at this point. And it's worth keeping a few around. You don't want to mess with things and you don't have time. Throw a 3/8 in there. She's too big. She won't sit perfectly, but it'll hold air. It'll crush up against everything and you will be up and running. But she's going to bubble a little bit, and you're probably going to have to put air in it once a month. I don't want to do that with this storage truck. So I'm going to get some lube, she said, roll that 5/16 down in here. I got her nice and squished. Hopefully I won't have to fight it too hard. That right there is why you don't want to leave your tires sit flat on the bottom. You know, especially when they're this old. Lord knows these are too old. That's why I wouldn't run them on a front. I mean, I'm going to put them on the front of a truck that's in storage, but I wouldn't run them on the front on this one. She lit instantly. Perfectly. Just went boop, right back on. I've got it draining out. What I did is I put just enough, and we're probably talking 3 psi, 4 psi, just enough to shove that bead up. Because you sure as crap can't air it up with that there. I mean, you'll break this cable. I guarantee you that. There'd be so much power right there, let alone try and get it loose afterwards. So I just wanted to shove those beads up so that they'll stick. Now I can take this thing loose, get everything out of the way, and I won't have to fight it. Fingers crossed. At this point, I am the 20-inch combat rim whisperer. Especially if you don't have the right tools. I am your man. So there are 2 sealing surfaces here. You've got the bead surface and the O-ring between the 2 rim halves. If you're getting bubbles out of here when you soap it, you've got a bead issue. If you're getting bubbles out of here, you've got an O-ring issue. The 1/4-inch O-ring will work in them if you have enough air pressure to shove them out, or your rims are in pristine condition so that the tolerances are tight enough that even lower air pressure can shove them in there. At 135 psi, I could not shove enough through the valve stems to do it. The 3/8 was too big. The 5/16 worked perfectly. You're going to know right off the bat if you're going to have trouble getting your rim halves to seal. When you're putting them together, if it drops all the way down, clunk, and the 2 pieces of metal come together, the 2 surfaces come together, and when you tighten your bolts, you don't see it squish together, you're going to have trouble. It means that the O-ring fits between the 2 rim pieces. So as they slide together, you're not actually touching it. If your metal comes down and goes thump, and then as you tighten, you see it suck down, then you know you're rolling your O-ring inside. And I'm not saying that you won't have trouble getting this surface to seal, but you will have that surface sealed. Unless your O-ring splits in 2, which I have had happen at least once. But I really like the 5/16 size. Some of you also have rims where they come together like this, and so the O-ring, instead of sliding between, is actually crushed. And I believe those rims do require 1/4-inch, and nothing else will work, I think. But I don't know. Hope this helps. I'm sure tired of dealing with them.